Look at this sign. To most people in the UK, there's nothing strange about it, except the absence of the apostrophe. However, I for one have given up on that battle. To a lot of people outside the UK who are less familiar with British English, they might be under the impression that something rather cruel was going on, and the British people's reputation as animal lovers is totally undeserved. So what are they, and why have they been removed? Cat's eyes are probably one of the cheapest life-saving inventions in history. The cat's eyes that have been removed are called road studs or road reflectors in most other English-speaking countries, and they are routinely removed when the road is being resurfaced and put back when the work is finished. Here is a definition from the Cambridge Online Dictionary. Small pieces of glass or plastic that are put along the middle and sometimes the sides of a road to reflect the lights of a car in order to show the driver where to drive when it is dark. But why are they called cat's eyes? The story goes like this. One night in 1933, Percy Shaw was driving home, and because of the poor conditions and the very weak headlights on the cars of that period, he couldn't see the curve in the road, and would have had an accident if a cat had not been sitting on the fence right at the curve. Its eyes reflected his headlights back at him. He said that on dark and foggy nights he used to use the light reflected from tram lines to help him follow the road. But of course, on roads without tram lines, this didn't work. Lots of people did this. Car headlights were not very good in those days, and he, like many other people, regularly drove home at night with very poor visibility. The combination of Yorkshire winter weather and too much beer probably didn't help matters either. There was one stretch of road which Percy often took home at night from a pub on the outskirts of Halifax. The tram lines had been taken up, and there was a curve with a steep drop on one side of the road. There were no guardrails in those days, just a wooden fence. If a cat hadn't been sitting on the fence as he passed, he wouldn't have been able to see the curve in the road and could have had a nasty and possibly fatal accident. The fact that cat's eyes reflect light very effectively saved his life. Cats have probably saved lots of lives in this way, but the difference was that Percy Shaw started thinking. In an interview with a television presenter called Alan Whicker in the 1960s, Percy Shaw told the full story, and I have left a link to this interview in the description below. He imagined that lines of cats on either side of the road could keep drivers safely on the road. Even cheaper, one line of cats in the middle of the road would have the same effect with half the number of cats involved. All he needed was a substitute for cats. Some sort of reflective lens was obviously the answer. The beauty of this system was that it used the light already generated by the car headlights. It needed no other energy source. Even at the time, some road signs used glass reflective lenses. Percy said that he helped himself to some of these lenses and started experimenting. After all sorts of prototypes, this is what he came up with, a system that was patented in 1934 and is still in use today. So how did they work? Cat's eyes were placed at regular intervals in the middle of the road. As you can see here, there is a metal surround and a plastic pad which contains reflective lenses. Each cat's eye system has 4 lenses, 2 facing each way. The plastic pad sits on top of a spring and is surrounded by rubber. When a car passes over the system, the plastic pad is pushed down without being harmed. And here is the clever bit. As the pad is pushed down, the lenses are cleaned by little rubber brushes fitted into the metal structure under the road. The system is cheap and simple. They lasted a very long time and didn't need an external energy source. So they must have been an immediate success, right? Wrong. At the beginning, there was some interest, Some local authorities had cat's eyes installed on some roads, but it wasn't seen as a big priority. Then the Second World War broke out. All over the world, the biggest fear of governments and populations alike was carpet bombing of cities. From the very first days of the war, very strict blackout regulations were introduced. This was the period known as the Phony War. In fact, relatively little bombing took place in Britain until 1940. However, the blackout regulations were so strict that the number of fatal road accidents rocketed. Since street lighting was switched off, motorists found stretches of road that had cat's eyes much easier to drive and much safer. Shortly after the war, a junior transport minister called James Callaghan passed a law introducing cat's eyes to a huge number of British roads. The junior minister went on to be the only British politician in history to hold all four top ministerial positions, culminating in that of Prime Minister from 1976 to 1979. In an interview after leaving politics, he was asked what he was most proud of in his long career. Despite all the positions he had held, he said that the introduction of cat's eyes was the thing he was most proud of because of the number of lives it saved. I remember seeing the interview when he said this, but no matter how hard I tried, I haven't been able to find a copy of it. Jim Callaghan's decision also made a huge difference to Percy Shaw's fortunes. His patent was still valid, and his factory in Halifax was working flat out. Percy Shaw became very, very rich. He could have been a lot richer if he had allowed other companies to make his products under license, especially in other countries, but he always refused. His few luxuries were 2 Rolls-Royces and 4 TV sets in his front room. Oh, and he loved the ladies. He entertained his friends continuously, and while entertaining always had 4 TV sets on, but with the sound turned down. It seemed that he did this because at the time there were only 4 channels available. Imagine how many TVs he would have now. He never married, and he lived in the house he had grown up in. His cleaning lady said that he refused to have curtains on the windows because they gathered dust, and he didn't like to have carpets for the same reason. All his furniture was on wheels or casters so that everything could be moved and the floor washed every day. A wonderful, old-style eccentric. Ex-Prime Minister James Callaghan was absolutely correct when he said that cat's eyes saved countless lives. They massively improved nighttime visibility and made it much easier to see the bends in the road. They helped people keep their cars in the right lane and massively reduced the incidence of head-on collisions, especially at night. All these benefits could be multiplied in bad weather conditions. Try driving at night in countries that don't use cat's eyes and you'll see the difference straight away. Throughout the years, the design and materials have improved, but the basic system is as good now as it has ever been. The use of solar panels and batteries is not necessarily an improvement to this technology because these things are expensive, they need to be replaced, and the old ones, including the solar panels and batteries, disposed of, probably in a landfill. But of course, people can make more money out of them if they are more wasteful and inefficient. Percy Shaw's invention was a real win-win solution for everyone. Bye for now.